In 1986, a tough little arcade brawler walked in with 3 buttons and an attitude. It didn't just teach us to fight, it taught games how to fight. Designed by Yoshihisa Kishimoto at Technos Japan and published by Taito, this game was the blueprint that would lead to Double Dragon only a year later. But before the legend, there was a street, and on that street was Renegade. How did a schoolyard slugfest in Japan turn into a gritty urban rescue in the West and change beat-em-ups forever? This is the story of Renegade and the street brawler that started it all, from Kunio-kun to Double Dragon. Renegade began life in Japan known as Neketsu Koha Kunio-kun, a story about a hot-blooded high school brawler defending his bullied friend. And for the West, the setting shifted to gritty city streets and a kidnapped girlfriend, closer to the Warriors vibe if you will. Designer Kishimoto drew from real teenage brawls and Bruce Lee films. That's why fights feel like drag out scraps instead of the one-hit karate taps. And that's what makes this one kind of cool, because the designer actually would get into fights back in the day, and I guess he translated that into video games. And for me, when I see Renegade throw punch, I've seen other games like Double Dragon, they throw punch and stuff, but Renegades just feel so heavy. Because I mean, if you ever look at the sprite detail when he's punching somebody in the face or getting punched, it's so cool the way their heads go back and forth when they get punched. And we take a look right here at the clip. This dude is throwing everything he's got into these haymakers, and it's just a great experience. I mean, the sound's punchy and heavy, and these punches look like they hurt. So yeah, he definitely put that into it, full swing. Now Technos Japan built a 3-button control scheme: left attack, right attack, and jump. It lets you attack forward or behind without turning your back to the crowd. And then layer in grabs, throw, and a mount, where you can actually do MMA kind of ground and pound strikes. And this was actually a direct response to earlier side-scrolling martial arts games. More health, more space, more combos, and a bigger focus on momentum. And honestly, I think it helps out big time. I mean, you feel the back kick connect. I mean, you get it. This is the moment beat 'em ups level up from a big factor from tap to win like other games did before, like Kung Fu and stuff like that, to actually having to manage crowd control. And that would be a huge element moving forward in beat 'em up games. You know, the fact that you have to be, it's not just one plane where people are in front of you, you have to be on the lookout for all the enemies that are scrolling around the screen. And this would be one of the first games that would actually let you move in 8 directions for a beat 'em up game. So yeah, there was no more just levels and planes of just one level. You actually had to move around, and that back kick came in handy. Because you have to remember, guys, this is pre-Double Dragon and the broken elbow. So yeah, that kick was actually pretty cool too. And it actually comes in handy in some of the boss fights. But more on that later. So let's talk about the gameplay and mechanics of this game. So fights happen in an arena-like stages with multi-directional movement. You're juggling fronts and backs and keeping the pack of enemies split. And signature moves like the back kick, they cover your 6. Charging attacks, you can run and strike at the same time, do a run and drop kick. You can grab the opponent into throws and jump kicks. And actually the jump kicks come in handy against the boss fights for the most part. And if you do them perfectly, you can actually stun the boss. And the enemy soak damage, that's intentional. The combos are used as storytelling. Each hit matters, and the last hit is the exclamation point when you just knock them straight on the ground. I thought that was a big deal. And you can be out punched by the bosses, so the bosses do have more personality and hit points than the average Joe. So it's pretty cool how a boss lets you know he's a boss. You're gonna have to do some kind of strategy to beat him. You're just not gonna out punch him for the most part. I mean, you can out punch Sabu, you can out punch Joel in the American version, that's what I'm calling these guys. But you can out punch them, but Jack, Kim, and I think that's all the bosses. You can't really out punch them because you definitely have to use some kind of strategy for it. So I think Jack's more with the drop kicks and Linda more is the back kick. And there's kind of a strategy you got to use with her. But at the same time, you know, that was part of the gameplay mechanics. And also with this game, there's not a whole lot of platforming. I think the most out of the normal thing you can do is when you drop kick the guys off the motorcycles. But outside of that, in the arcade version anyway, it's kind of just straightforward. And the game is pretty short. You go through the game, 4 levels. Now, one thing I will say about the punch and kick system here, it can be confusing if you never played this kind of game before, which is kind of weird because they had this style of forward and back kicking. When you flip, the buttons shift, change to different directions. So you're punching left, you turn this way, now you're kicking instead. They would use that later on with Double Dragon 2. Then they would skip Double Dragon 1. And there's a story with, it's kind of a theory with that, why Double Dragon 2 kind of got a lot of flack as opposed to Double Dragon 1. Which to me, Double Dragon 2 is an awesome game. I mean, but I'll talk more about that when we cover Double Dragon 2. That's coming up real soon, arcade version. But anyway, back to Renegade. I feel like that formula worked perfectly once you got it down, because you would need that later on. And then I think they took it away in Double Dragon, and the elbow kind of came and broke the game for a lot of people. Which, don't get me wrong, Double Dragon was still super fun, but the elbow was notorious for breaking that game. But in this game, it was a little more fair, but the level of difficulty could be a little harder because Kim can kind of be a pain in the ass if you don't know how to do it. The main strategy you want to do with Kim, and I'll show you real quick if you ever play Renegade and get stuck. The best theory here, in my opinion, is you always want to leave one person alive when she comes out, and that way you can separate the two so you can actually use your kick, because that's about the only thing you can really use. You can out punch her every blue moon, and you can drop kick her every blue moon, but lots of times you guys will hit each other in exchange, and she'll actually get the best part of the exchange, and she takes the most damage from you instead of a one shot, because she can grab you and either do that headbutt or she can kind of slap you in the face, and that's kind of going to take you about 3 or 4 units of health on its own. So the best thing to do is separate them like I'm doing here, and then kind of scale up and down and get that kick in, and then that kind of stops her. But outside of that, by herself, she's kind of tough because you can't use the kick facing you. You can't use the kick when you're facing forward. You can only punch forward, and when you run the other way, they're going to turn with you. So yeah, you might want to do that. Also, what makes this game pretty cool is the AI in this game is actually pretty smart. They'll size you up where they're supposed to. They'll make sure they surround you, and they are not shy about attacking you and hitting you in the back. Like, you know, some games where the enemy doesn't attack, if you let you beat up one enemy and the other enemy on the other side stand still. No, this one, they will actually attack together, you know, and jump you. Another thing of this game is when you get to the last stage, it can be kind of challenging because all the enemies in the NES version, the home versions, usually don't have that knife where they can one-shot you, but here all those guys got knives, and if they attack you once, you're pretty much gone. Same thing with Sabu. When you get to him, he has that gun and it's a one shot, you're gone. So in his stage actually has the difference here as well with the arcade versus the home ports is you go straight to him after the fight. You don't go through doors like you do in the home version. So that's one thing you have to note as well. Outside of that though, that's pretty much straightforward how you play the game. It just more so much memorization and picking and choosing your punches wisely. We can get some shots in without getting stabbed in the back or shot, pretty much. But yeah, it's a pretty fun game. So this game does have a world story. In Japan, it's a schoolyard honor tale. Kunio stepping up for Hiroshi, chasing gangs from station to streets to the boss's hideout. In the West, our character becomes a no-name brawler, rescuing his girlfriend from 4 gangs and a mob boss. Now the tone shift is everything. Delinquent drama versus urban revenge. But the bones in the game is pretty much the same game. One hero, many fists, and show the difference in style, comparison of the characters, and show the different endings. So if we look right here, side by side comparison, you can see if you played the American Renegade, which most of us played, you can see it's just kind of straight out the Warriors here. They're fighting in the subway station, and they did change the bosses. I kind of call them the games from the NES, the boss characters, the name Jack and all that stuff, and Mr. K. I'm guessing that stands for Mr. Kunio. I don't know, but anyway, that's the American version. In the Japanese version, you are Kunio-kun, and your buddy keeps getting his ass whooped, and you go take revenge and chase these guys down. I mean, he gets beat up by everybody, the women, the guys, they just kick this guy's ass. Anyway, your job is to fight for his honor. Outside of that though, there's not really a whole lot of changes. Now there are some cosmetic changes, as we see here. You can see that all the people are wearing the traditional Japanese school uniforms, and in America these are grown men just wearing more of an 80s style stuff with the Hawaiian shirts and all the other crap. But you know, the characters pretty much play the same. The bosses are the same. Here you got the guy straight from the Warriors with the headband and the little afro he's got. And then in the second stage, you got the biker guys. So yeah, and then the females, that's probably one of the most dramatic changes. You have the females here in the Japanese version that look a little more conservative, but they still do damage. And then you have the ones in the American version that look a little more risque. And that's the best way I can put it, a little more risque. But you know, but the patterns and the gameplay is the same. I played both of these all the way through just now for this video, and pretty much the game mechanics are pretty much identical. And Sabu does change the color of his suit at the end, but outside of that, it's the same game. Now the endings are a little different. If you see here, Kunio celebrates with his friend, and you know, everybody's beat up. In the American version, this guy comes out and he has this blonde waiting for him. So yeah, so the endings are a little different, but they had to westernize it as well because, I don't know, traditions are different. Now I will say, as a kid, I didn't connect the dots. I didn't even know there was a version of Renegade in Japan, and I always thought whenever I played River City Ransom, which you know is Kunio-kun in Japan, I kind of matched the two only because the hair. Now if I look at the Japanese version of Kunio in this game, he doesn't look exactly like the River City Ransom one. The River City Ransom one is more a chibi kind of character, and he had a little part in his head, a little Dewey's got and stuff like that. And that's kind of what the Renegade character had. So and then plus Technos Japan is involved with both games. So I kind of said he reminded me of him, but I wouldn't find out till later that it is him or a version of him in this game. And then localization will continue with River City Ransom. River City Ransom, they got t-shirts and jeans, pretty much all the characters, and overseas they have the Japanese traditional school uniform. So yeah, there are differences, but I didn't realize they were Westerners. Now the first time, honestly, I think I got clued in was the old EGM magazines, because I was a River City Ransom freak. I love, that's probably my top 3 of all NES games. So when Super Nintendo came out with it, I saw they had River City Ransom 2. It wasn't called that, but the magazine kind of hinted towards that, because there is a Super NES version of Kunio-kun if you never played it before, and it's actually not that bad. It takes a little bit getting used to the story, but now with modern translations and stuff, you can actually go play that one, and it has been re-released with a translation in it. But it's not the same. It doesn't play like River City Ransom. It kind of plays a little different. River City Ransom to me was a lot more fun than that game they had. But at the time, that's when I kind of noticed the difference, and I thought it would come stateside, and it never did until years later. Because let's be honest, back in the day, most kids anyway, didn't identify with. I always wondered, like, when I beat Mega Man or something like that, all the Japanese names would come down, and I was like, why? I said, what do they have to do with the game? But most kids like me didn't understand or even know about localization for a game. We just thought, hey, Nintendo made it or whatever. Nintendo has, we didn't know about all the stuff we know now. So localization wasn't common knowledge back in the day, at least for me back in the 80s, but that's kind of where we're at. So let's move on. So real quick, Renegade wasn't like a double dragon hit, but there were a lot of ports for this game. So we'll take a look at some of the ones I could get going, and we will talk about each one. So we'll start with the arcade first, and the arcade, obviously, this is the standard we're going to hold the rest of the games to as far as what we got. To actually play through most of the ports as far as I could get without just getting killed in the game if it was unplayable. So let's get started. So yeah, the arcade, definitely the best looking version of the game, the most fun version of the game to me, but I will say, it's very, very short. But for what they got in there, it's a very cool game, very fun, catchy music, and sounds amazing, looks amazing for the time. So next up, we'll move on to the Amiga. And the Amiga, to me, as far as all the home versions go, if I have to base it on looks like the arcade, I'll say this one's probably the best. It is actually somewhat playable, but you can see here I'm struggling to get some moves off, but you can actually play this one. The collision on the frame rate's pretty bad on the game, and the collision's not that great either. But I do respect the fact that they have at least 6 characters in the screen, and it does move and flow like the arcade game, just real choppy. So this one's actually not that bad, and it has this funky music. Let's take a listen to it real quick. Yeah, that's dope. I mean, it's not even in the game. I don't know where they got this music from, but hey, it was kind of cool that he put some music in there. So yeah, so overall, not the worst, but honestly, definitely needs some work. It definitely needs a lot of work, but hey, good showing anyway. Next up, we got the Commodore 64, and usually the Commodore 64, it can be hit or miss. Sometimes it's great, sometimes it sucks. This version right here, the movement's good. This guy, he looks crazy. He's got his shirt off. I mean, don't get me wrong, you can tell it's the guy from the thing, and they do kind of make it right, but it's kind of a mix. I think it plays more like the console NES version, because they are at the train station, but I don't see the boss hanging out in the back. You can throw punches and everything with this one. I recommend, if you're going to play this one, play it with a mouse and keyboard, because the controls, it's kind of, I won't say stiff, but it's actually kind of hard to hit the characters, because when you move, they move backwards super fast. The arcade does that as well, but it's so hard to line yourself up with these guys and throw some punches. Also, the hit collision on this one is pretty bad. I mean, other than that though, it is what it is. I mean, you can tell you're playing Renegade. I put it like this: I know I'm playing Renegade because I see the train. If the train wasn't there, I maybe can get this confused with. He looks like the guy from My Hero, more so than the guy from Renegade. But anyway, overall, decent showing, not the worst, but definitely could use a little more work. I think if they took the smoothness of this game and put it with the Amiga, then we'd have something. But anyway, that's the Commodore 64. And next up, real quick, because the NES, we've all seen that. One of the cool ports was Renegade for the Sega Master System, believe it or not. And this one was actually cool. It was definitely playable, and this would be a later Sega game. I think it came out in 1993, I want to say. Late in the Sega Master System. So not Genesis, but this is actually a Master System game. And for Master System, this thing's beautiful. And it actually's got music and everything like that. And you actually have boss fights, and it's actually a pretty cool game. The collision's not the best, you know, but the game does move pretty fast, and yeah, it's definitely playable, and it's definitely a really fun experience. Just when you play this one, don't expect to get the NES you know, feel. This is that kind of a thing on its own. I mean, you could throw this Superman punch you got right here, and it comes in very handy against the bosses, and all the bosses do show up in the game in some form or fashion. You have the stage with the females, Kim's stage, and she actually makes an appearance in the game as well. You got these guys that look like from the Fist of the North Star. That's exactly who I have to think they modeled these people after. You know, this guy must have had a thing with you know, Fist of the North Star, but it's a clause who said, if you touch me, I'll let you get by. Anyway, that's Hokuto no Ken no universe. Don't worry about that. But then you got Kim in this game as well, and dude, she is jacked. I mean, she's got this tank top on and a skirt, but man, you can see the abs and pecs even coming through, and she slaps the mess out of you in this game and takes some damage. But so overall, yeah, pretty good showing for the Master System. I mean, this is kind of the ones that probably slipped under a lot of people's radar. But if you get a chance, definitely pick this one up. And Sabu, he looks like a total scumbag. He's got this bad hair, and I don't know what's going on with that. But other than that, and the ending's kind of weird, but I don't want to ruin that for you either. But yeah, definitely if you get a chance, check out this one for the Master System, because it's actually pretty good. And the last one we got is Renegade for the NES, and this is probably the one that most people are probably going to be familiar with. And from what I found, it plays exactly, because I played this one all the way through to the end, and I played the Japanese version all the way to the end as well, and they play pretty much similar, pretty much identical. The cosmetics are the main change up, and for what it is, I mean, it looks pretty cool. I mean, the movement on it is definitely the fastest. I mean, he does have all the moves he has in arcade, same button scheme and everything, except here you do it with 2 buttons, so it's a little more manageable, but the premise is still the same. He has all the moves. One thing that the NES did have though with this port, they put that NES flair on. You know, you always got to make something extra when you're doing NES games, but actually this time it paid off in a good way. You actually have a scene where you actually drive the motorcycle, which the arcade doesn't have, and you actually have, when you get to the last part, you have to go through the levels and try to find the last boss, as opposed to just in an arcade, just walking straight through the door and finding him. So that's a plus as well. Also, the NES and the Famicom version have power-ups, so when you mount the guys and punch them in the face, sometimes a heart might fly up, and that's the extra man. And what you can do, you can actually keep punching the guy, get back on top, mount him again. Every time you punch him from a mounted position and get off, a heart might come up, but you have to be on the lookout for that. Also, they've got this P power-up where you can punch the people and they fly across the screen. If you mount them and punch them in this state, they will die instantly with 1 hit. And then on the motorcycle stage, there is a S you pick up for speed. So yeah, so there's a couple of things that they put in here that's not in the arcade. So overall, this is a good showing of Renegade. Definitely a good port. They put everything, pretty much what's in the game, where it's supposed to be. Another thing they did do as well in this game, they did censor the females. They toned them down and gave them skirts, as opposed to making them look like they do in the American arcade version, where they look, I'll use that word again, risque. But yeah, but other than that, oh, and last thing, maybe the last stage, the guys got sticks, and the only person in this game that can actually one-shot you is Sabu, and Sabu shoots a lot faster in the NES version. But outside of that, I mean, pretty much the same game with the Japanese version, and that's pretty much, obviously in my mind, this is a superior version, but one could argue that the Sega Master System, they might like that one better as well, because that one is pretty cool. So if you, like I said, if you never get a chance to, if you get a chance to play the Master System version of Renegade, it's definitely worth the playthrough. So as far as legacy goes, Renegade is ground zero for Koshimoto style combos, crowd control, 3-button logic, and the laid back track for Double Dragon. This is all precursor to Double Dragon, and at home, it even spawned sequels like Target Renegade 2 and 3, born from Ocean's license to create their own computer sequels. So I always think if Double Dragon is the hit single, okay, then Renegade is definitely the demo tape that proved the sound. So what I think about Renegade? Renegade was cool. It was a very fun game to play. This is one of the games, again, where I played the NES version first, and then would later play the arcade version, because you didn't really see, Renegade wasn't out there like Double Dragon, okay? You really didn't see that everywhere. And the first time I played it for the NES, I was blown away, because I was like, oh man, this game's cool, you know? By that time, I had already played Double Dragon in the arcade, but then I played Renegade on NES, and it was a very fun experience. But I would play Renegade real soon after I played it after, like, during the Double Dragon craze. I did see Renegade. They had it in this little mom and pop shop by my house called One Stop. And they had like a couple of arcade, used to be a 7-Eleven, but they had a couple of arcade games. They'd have maybe about 5 or 6. That little back room for it, because that was so special back in the day when you went to a mom and pop shop or some kind of convenience store and they have about 5 or 6 lined up games. But anyway, that's the first time I played it. And prior knowledge to already playing the NES version, I tried my hand at the arcade, and it was tough. It was definitely a culture shock, because a lot of the patterns you use at home, you can keep running. That running punch is your friend at home. You know, you can knock, you just kind of meet the opponent before they get off the ground with that punch. So yeah, you can kind of dominate that game. But the arcade, it didn't work, and the mechanics were a lot different, and it was actually a lot more challenging. And then some of the things I was blown away with the localization of the game. So when I saw, so when I got to stage 3 with the females, and I'm used to the ones I see at home, because like I said, the women there, they were dressed more grown up looking, and man, it was a total shock. I mean, because you had Kim in the arcade, she's got like, at home she's got like dress, she's tall, whatever, and big, but in the arcade she's got that crazy afro, she's got tattoos, and she's like, you know, just big, you know, she got that little, you know, crappy tattoo on her arm, but you know, it's a big deal. And the move was kind of the same, and plus Kim in arcades, he actually got a headbutt, so it was some differences. And I wouldn't beat this, I put money in at the time, but I wouldn't beat this game actually until later on down the road, because I didn't want to spend all my money in playing Renegade. But so I didn't beat this one until later on. Now, in an arcade setting, I did not beat this game. I didn't beat it until, like I say, later on with emulation and stuff like that, because it was challenging. It was tough. I mean, I got to Kim, I beat her, and then I ended up getting to the guys with the knives, and they just one-shot you, you know what I mean? And that was kind of a shock, like, wow, they hit me once and I died. So that was kind of a big deal. But overall, very fun arcade experience. As far as the home version went, lots of replay value there. I mean, I do appreciate when the whole setting of that game, like, the music was pretty cool, because they did add some extra tracks, like when you go into that train station, you know, old 50s 60s music. It was pretty cool how they did that. It kind of went perfectly well with the theme they had, and they kept the whole move set pretty much that you have from the arcade. So and actually me playing that before I played the arcade was actually pretty cool. And they did extend it. I like the fact that they put at the end, it just wasn't just a gimme. They tried to extend it a little bit. Now, one thing I will say about Renegade that a lot of people don't know, believe it or not, is you actually can change the difficulty in that game, but it's kind of funky how they do it. Like, you got level 1, it's your default level, but you can actually push the I want to say it's either the A or B. Next time you play Renegade on NES, try pushing the button, and you actually scale up the levels. You can go up to level 3. Level 3 being the hardest, where it's still the same amount of characters on screen, because the NES is limited to how many characters can be on the screen. But at the same time, when you get to the labyrinth where you're trying to find Sabu, it's actually a lot harder and a lot more in depth. So yeah, you can definitely check that out as well. There is actually 3 settings for Renegade: 1, 2, and 3. 1 being the easiest and 3 being the hardest. But overall, pretty good solid brawler for the NES and for the arcade as well. And what's also cool about Renegade, last thing I can say about it, is if you look at the lineage of that game, it was definitely the pioneer. Same guy made it, of course, but this is the pioneer for Double Dragon, what would come about a year later, and the world would explode with Double Dragon Mania. But this was the beginning right here, and it was kind of rough in some ways, but it did play different from Double Dragon. But the DNA for the game that would not become Double Dragon, but would lead to Double Dragon, set the groundwork anyway. You can definitely see that DNA in this game, and it aged okay. As far as the 80s classic beat 'em up, the graphics still hold up in my opinion. The music's still cool and everything like that. So if you never played arcade Renegade before, definitely give it a shot. It's definitely the controls might throw you off a little bit, but they're pretty much in line with Double Dragon 2: The Revenge. Pretty much in line with those control schemes, and we'll talk about Double Dragon 2 in a future video coming up real soon. So that probably, I'm thinking that's next. I'm thinking. So we'll go ahead and throw that up for you guys, and we'll go a little more in depth with it. But yeah, the control scheme was original and pretty innovative at the time. And I keep talking about this game, but Renegade did a lot of firsts. It was the first game to actually, in a beat 'em up game, to my knowledge, to really have that level of crowd control. And that would kind of stem off with games like Final Fight and even Double Dragon, where you had to be cognizant of what's in front of you and what's behind you and what the other enemies are doing on the screen. So Renegade was actually the first. And another cool thing about Renegade, I keep saying, I'm not going to stop talking about this game, was all the characters they had on screen at one time. I mean, Double Dragon, the max you can get is 4, no more than 4, and it had a lot of slowdown. Renegade did have slowdown as well, and then the running factor you could do. Renegade did a lot of, that was the first where you could actually run from the enemies, and they boom boom, they chase you. I mean, that was kind of, you know, high adrenaline stuff for back in the day. So in some ways, I'd say Renegade actually had a lot of innovations. Some innovations that Double Dragon didn't. You know, you can't run in Double Dragon. I mean, but you know, is what it is. But yeah, definitely the groundwork and great job for Technos Japan and developer, and you know, just Technos in general. So Renegade, epic game. Give it a playthrough. That's gonna do it for this one, guys. And as always, take care of yourself, protect your inner peace. God bless you, and thanks for watching.